Brooklyn. You better believe it. I'm on Facebook Live, Frankie Russo, YouTube Live. I got them both going on at the same time. That's how we roll. We're making it happen, right? I'm coming on. We're going to get in, and then we're going to get out. What up, Jonathan? What's poppin', kid? We're going to get in, and then we're going to get out. Okay? Get in and get out. Okay, sports take. Yankees won again. Our trajectory is beautiful. We'll see what happens. We start with Toronto. They're coming, right? Toronto can hit. They're playing everybody tough. I hope the Yankees don't take it. What up, Dan? I'm hoping the Yankees don't take Toronto lightly. Then after Toronto, we go back home for Baltimore and Cleveland. And then I think we start the West Coast swing. So this is a nice trajectory where, right? That's what I'm talking about, Jonathan. That's what I'm talking about. But anyway, so the Yankees trajectory, I'm just hoping, and I'll keep saying it. What up, Charlie? We got to continue to weaponize. The Yankees got to weaponize the bullpen as we get closer to October. Houston's going to throw their pitching assets on the table. Cleveland's going to throw their pitching assets on the table, right? Tampa Bay, who knows? Boston, they wake up. And then you got the Twins. Everybody's going to throw their pitching assets on the table. Our pitching assets is the bullpen. We're getting some great news today on Severino. They're saying he's moving in the right direction. And so we'll see. Also, Betances, we got to get them at the very least in the bullpen, right? So that's my take on the Yankees. We got to keep the trajectory, but we got to straighten out what's going to be the pitching for October, our October run. And I believe we're going to have to weaponize the bullpen, and Booney's going to have to give us his best Sparky Anderson, Captain Hook imitation. That's my take on that. Giants, we're going to talk as NFL football. We're going to talk the New York Football Giants as we get closer to September 2nd. I'm going to give you a nice analysis, the Russo take, and then I'm going to give you, as we get closer to the NBA, I believe that the Knicks, if this Fizdale, this head coach, is as advertised, and he actually, because he's got players now, he does. He has players. He does. YouTube Live and Facebook Live. He has players. So I believe if he's able to get the Knicks to play defense, that's it. We make the playoffs in the East. I believe that. We'll talk more about that. So now I'm going to talk about our great president, Donald John Trump. Our great president is amazing, right? And I'm going to quickly get to this thing because I talked about this on Monday on the shootings. And it really, and I'm going to say it again. We condemn unequivocally racial hate, racial biases, any shape or form, violence, nonviolence. We condemn racial hate, whether it be white, whether it be black, whatever it is, we condemn it. With that being said, like I said since Monday, right? What drives me crazy is senseless killings, and those killings in El Paso, Texas, and the killings in Dayton, Ohio. And apparently they still don't have a motive on the Dayton, Ohio shootings. But, they got all this information, which, and I've been, I'm sorry. And like I've been saying all along, the reporting on these events is another problem for Frankie Russo, right? I don't believe mainstream media. I don't believe the mainstream intelligence. I don't believe. I'm sorry. I'm suspicious. When I heard it was in El Paso, Texas, red flags were going crazy with me right off the U.S.-Mexican border. And I got this, supposedly they calling him white Christian nationalist terrorist problem. I got a problem with that. Comparing this to the radical Islamic terror, the global radical Islamic terror problem the world has, comparing this to the Iranian global terror network, comparing this to the global jihadi movement. Beyond belief, this New York Times. White Christian nationalist terrorist problem, they say we have. Comparing this to the American jihadi movement in this country. Beyond belief, right? I've talked about for the last 2 days the vectors from the U.S.-Mexican border all the way up to New York City, from the poppy fields of Mexico, that vector that goes through El Paso, Texas, right next to the jihadi training camp that the FBI had spotted and took care of, right? The Sharaj Rahaj, that jihadi training camp, the FBI shut that one down. So it went from El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Houston, Texas. Then the vector gets parallel to the Cartesian coordinate system, and we're in New Orleans, Louisiana. We go up the coast through Macon County, Georgia, Alabama, past Atlanta, Georgia, through Charlotte, North Carolina, into D.C., into Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Mosque Conference, and then we go into the streets of New York. That vector, President Trump's been trying to shut that vector down for 3 years. And we've talked about this on the show, how that vector was used by the 9/11 hijackers from San Diego, from Phoenix, Arizona, from San Antonio, Texas, up to meet their 9/11 Imam, Anwar al-Awlaki in D.C. The New York Post confirmed the vector we plotted in 2017, trying to analyze the Mandalay Bay shootings, which we know the federales shut that one down, the investigation. So, and we believe the fourth crime scene was the U.S.-Mexican border. Like the second crime scene in El Paso, Texas, is the U.S.-Mexican border, right? Now, the Mexican drug cartel now are using the same vectors that the 9/11 hijackers used in 2001. Same vectors. New York Post confirmed it. I have the article on my website, frankierusso.media, americasteam.nyc. And just scroll down and you'll see all the vectors. We're creeping, like I said, we're creeping toward incontrovertible truth, right? We are within the realm of statistical significance. In all likelihood, no probability, classified information is the mean, which I don't have access to. Okay? So I'll get my disclaimer in a second. This is what the New York Times has the nerve. I'm a white Christian, right? I'm a white Christian from Brooklyn. We have a white Christian nationalist terrorist problem. Comparing this to the global jihadi problem, beyond belief, right? So before I, because I'm going to go now global on y'all, I'm going to leave the American jihadi movement alone right now, and I'm going global, and I'm going to go even deeper. So here, AmericasTeam.today, Russo disclaimer, outside looking in, no Congressional Oversight Committee, no International Atomic Energy Agency, no Joint Chiefs of Staff, no National Security Council, no access to classified docs, nor do I know anyone who has access to classified docs, court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-sourced, well-researched open source articles. What we're searching for is a quasi-model, quote-unquote, statistical significance, and all likelihood, no probability, look for trends, differences, and patterns in the data, and that we conceivably reach reasonable, responsible conclusions. And by the way, we believe our conclusions are close. Classified information is the mean. We're within the standard deviation of the mean. The Russo disclaimer. So it's all out there, right? I got my disclaimer. So first thing, right? First thing. Okay. I'm going global right now, right? I got to show these pictures. I'm sorry. Just to remind people. Exactly, Jonathan. I got to show these pictures. But for the grace of God, I'm a man of Christ, right? But for the grace of God, I have to show these pictures. Here's one picture. Who did this? Who did this? Who did this? This is the U.S. Cole. No white Christian did this. The USS Cole. The USS Cole. Who did that? No white Christian did that. Look at this. Who did this? Who did this? I got to show these pictures, man. Who did this? No white Christian nationalist problem did this. This is where the 200 Marines got killed in 1983 Beirut. Hezbollah. Who did this? Iran. Who did that? Who did this? In Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. Who did this? No white Christians did this. No white Christians did this. Who did this? Who did this? Hezbollah. This is in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. Khobar Towers attack. Killed the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Okay? I am so now. I'm gonna go with the map. Now I'm gonna show you how deep this global jihadi movement is. How they could even think about comparing these isolated shootings, calling it a white Christian nationalist terrorist, and then with the nerve to put it at the feet of our great president Donald John Trump, claiming that he's a terrorist too. When we had a stealth jihad radicalismist in the White House with the other stealthy Hillary Clinton, Obama, John Kerry, all the treasonous traitors, giving away the kitchen sink, money, giving them arms, weapons, and look at them. President Trump is taking them all on. Those stealth jihad radicalismists gave them back $150 billion. Iran gave them 1.7 billion money laundered from US dollars into euro notes and gave it to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now here's some of these vectors. Absolutely, Jonathan. Here's some of these vectors up in YouTube, right. So I'm going to go through this. This is, I just want everybody to understand how deep this global jihadi movement is. That these New York Times editorial board, I'm not saying all of the New York Times reporters are corrupt. No. I'm not saying all Washington Post reporters are corrupt. No. I'm not saying all Huffington Post reporters are corrupt. All I'm saying is their editorial boards are corrupt, right? Times, Post, Huffington Post, corrupt. Absolutely. That was that piece. The white Christian national terrorist problem is the New York Times editorial board, comparing it to the global jihadi movement. Now, let's look at this. Here's Riyadh, right? I just want to give you an idea on how deep these proxy wars are going with this global jihadi movement, this Islamic movement today, right? This is Riyadh. This is the capital of Saudi Arabia, right? Now, here's Sana'a. This is Yemen. Up here here's Baghdad, Iraq, and here's the Kirkuk oil pipeline, right? So to understand how Iran, I talk about this all the time. Iran's coming from here, right? With this vector from Iran into Baghdad. It's about 240 degrees in a physics 101 freshman physics Cartesian coordinate system. It's in the third quadrant, about 240 degrees southwest. So they're coming to 5-hour drive right into Baghdad. Exactly, Jonathan. Exactly. Over 3,000 to 5,000 Americans were killed. Exactly, Jonathan. The September 11th, 2001. So from up here, where the capital of Iran is, all the way to Baghdad, Iraq, right? So this is one command center in Baghdad that Iran. Well, here's Iran. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong side. Here's Iran over here. Iran's right here, right? So Iran's coming here, right? So from Iran, this is from my okay, from my view into the paper. I'm sorry. From my view, because I'm looking into the screen, I get confused. So from my view into the paper, it's still the vector's still there, right? So it's coming like this. Iran's coming like this, right? Boom, right here. They're in Baghdad, right? They're in Baghdad right here, and this way is Damascus, right? Here's the Kirkuk oil pipeline, right? So here's Baghdad, here's the Kirkuk oil pipeline, and from Baghdad, Iraq, 180 degrees west is Damascus. That is the Iran command center. Oh my God, I talked about it last night. It is where Iran does their dirty deeds, right? Right. So it's this way, right? Here's Syria. Boom, Damascus is right here. Right. That's where the Crowbar Towers. That's where the Crowbar Towers. See, right here, Damascus is right here. Right. So here's Baghdad. Here's Damascus. Damascus is right here in Syria. Okay. Now I see this map better. Okay. So here's Damascus. This is where General Sarifi, where he implemented and orchestrated the Crowbar Towers attack, which was right. It's right off the. It's right. It's right. It's not far from Riyadh. It's right off the Persian Gulf around here. I think it's around. Yeah, it's around here. Bahrain's right there. There it is. It's right there. Here it is. Here's Bahrain. It's right here. That's where they killed men and women of the United States Armed Forces. That big complex they blew up. Hezbollah did that, and that was confirmed by the FBI. 250 agents, 5-year investigation. It was General Sharifi in the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria. From here, he commanded, orchestrated, and implemented the attack on the Crowbar Towers over here. You believe this? From here. From here. That's why these vectors are just incredible. Look at this. This is horrific, right? From here. Iran conducted an attack. And you would never know it came from Iran unless they had the 5-year investigation. Right? Iran practices a zero footprint. That's where they do things, right? And it took a 5-year investigation, 250 FBI agents to confirm that it was the Brigadier General of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps that implemented and orchestrated the terror hit on the Crowbar Towers, utilizing the Saudi Hezbollah from Damascus, Syria. Here's the Kirkuk oil pipeline, just to give you an idea of the way this thing flows. The Kurds had an independence vote before President Trump got into power, and Barzani was their leader, and the Kurds in Iraq voted for their independence. Obviously, the Khomeini, Iran, Erdogan, Turkey, and Abadi, the prime minister of Iraq, wasn't having it. Because the Kirkuk oil pipeline, which also brings in Turkey up here, right? It's 90 degrees above Baghdad. The Kirkuk oil pipeline brings in to Iraq $7 billion annually. $7 billion approximately. Right? And So the Kurds were going to claim, because the Kirkuk oil pipeline was on their territory, they were going to claim, because that was going to pay for their government, so they could have an independent government. And Barzani had to resign. That's how horrific the um, Khomeini, Erdogan, and Abadi, Iraq, right? So basically, Iran takes over Baghdad, a densely Shiite populated country. Iran takes over Damascus, Syria, a densely Shiite populated country. And then Iran takes over Beirut, Lebanon, a Shiite densely populated country. That's how they control this area here. See these vectors? Here's Beirut, here's Damascus, and here's Baghdad. Very, very, Iran's most effective vector, all the way from Tehran, the capital of Iran. They control this whole area. That's why Saudi Arabia is doing this. Saudi Arabia is building, this is what our great president wants to do something like this, obviously. But, what he's dealing with on a political side, right? Saudi Arabia is building a 600-foot wall. Saudi Arabia, 400 watchtowers equipped with Airbus Spexer 2000 radars, daylight cameras, 7 command and control centers. I don't think we have a command center on the U.S.-Mexican border. I know we have one in Florida, the South Command. 38 separate communication towers, 32 military response stations. This is what Saudi's putting in on the Iraqi border, the northern border of Saudi Arabia, to keep out the Sunni militias that Iran is going to run through into the Saudi kingdom, into Riyadh. They got twin chain link fences with razor wire, 100 meters apart, separated by this concertina fence, sand berms, embankments designed to slow infiltrators, response stations equipped with helipads, 240 rapid response vehicles, surveillance reconnaissance vehicles, 10 units, each fitted with the Spexer radar, video, thermal, and night vision cameras. This is all what the Saudis are putting in their northern border. It's like a Pentagon-like complex. Underground movement sensors, 1.4 meters of fiber optic cable connects C2 centers to Ministry of Interior. They call this the border barrier. This is what Saudi is building, or they built it, or they were in the process of building. When I last checked about a year ago or so, they were in a process of building it. I'm curious how far along they are. But this is what they were putting on their northern border. Why? Why? Because of these vectors here. Because from Iran, the capital of Iran, to Baghdad, to Damascus, to Beirut. This is the northern border of Saudi Arabia, right? The Iraqi border. Here it is. Look, here it is. Here's the fence. Here's the wall. Here it is. Here's Iraq, and here's the wall. Why? Because of Iran. The mainstream media, like the New York Times, published that we have a claiming that we have a white Christian nationalist problem, claiming that it's comparable to the global jihadi movement. They say this wall is coming up to keep out ISIS. They're not going to tell you the truth. To keep out the Sunni militias that Iran is fronting. Yes. ISIS is a Sunni militia. But they'll never tell you that. Oh, Here is what I want to show you as well. Here's another. The Persian Gulf. Let me show you the Persian Gulf. The Strait of Hormuz. This is the Persian Gulf over here. Iran's over here. So the Strait of Hormuz is like right here. Right here. Right? Here's the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf of Oman, right? Strait of Hormuz is here, the Gulf of Oman is here. Here's the Persian Gulf. 22 million barrels of oil passed through this, according what they say in the open source, Middle Eastern oil transit choke point. Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, Gulf of Oman, right? 22 million barrels of oil per day passes through that. So Iran's going nuts over there. They're trying to anyway. Look at this. Look at the traffic, just to give you an idea. Look at the traffic. Look at the traffic. Look at the traffic. This is the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf of Oman. Look at this. 22 million barrels of oil per day passes through this chokehold. This oil transit choke point. Middle Eastern, right? There's three. I'm going to show you four. There's three. I'm going to show you three in this area, North African Middle Eastern area. Crazy, right? So you got now in Beirut, Iran, Hezbollah, right over here, whacked the prime minister of Beirut, Rafik al-Harari, right? His son took over, and they forced him to resign. They've got this trial, the trials. Hezbollah operatives, the Shiite terrorism arm of Iran, whacked the prime minister of Lebanon. They've yet to have a trial, and actually, the last time I checked, there was still drum beating on this trial. There's still drum beats on a trial on who assassinated Rafik al-Harari. His son took over. They forced him to resign. Now, down in Sana'a, Yemen, so Saudi Arabia is building this wall along Iraq to keep out the rogue Sunni militias, rogue Sunni terrorists that are fronted by the Hezbollah, Quds Force, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps terror cells up here. From these vectors here, from Baghdad to Damascus to Beirut. All the way from Iran, from the capital of Iran, right? And here's the Kirkuk oil pipeline. And I told you what happened over there. And then we went down here, which is the Strait of Hormuz, over here with the Gulf of Oman, the Persian Gulf. And over here we have 22 million barrels of oil passing through this water passageway every day. And I showed you the picture of how much traffic goes through that. And that's why Iran is like, our great president is putting the squeeze on Iran. So Iran is trying to, act out a little bit, but they're doing it in a very, because they know they don't want a problem, right? So basically, what they're doing is they got they're selling oil on the black market in Malaysia, right? There was an Iranian billionaire that was doing it for a while. He sold over 24 million barrels of oil off of the port of Labuan in Malaysia, right? 23 million barrels of oil in the black market was sold in Malaysia off Port Labuan by this Iranian national billionaire. Okay, so that's Iran, and he's working with the government. He was working with Ahmadinejad, and he ran into a political issue with Hassan Rouhani because he doesn't want to lose control of the country. So he's got to show publicly that he's not all the way down with the Khomeini, which he at one time he was very much involved with the Khomeini, but he's got to play the politics because that's one thing the regime is concerned about in Iran. They don't care about their people. They don't want to lose control of their country. and they got no problem getting money because they get the money, they smuggle and they get money through the black markets like they're doing with the oil in the port Labuan. So that's Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, and we talked about the Crowbar Towers attack. Now, as we go down here, right? Oh, it's on the other side. Okay. Is it? Let's see. Right. The Red Sea's on the other side, right? Okay, so over here on this side, okay, good. So over here on this side is, so we had the Crowbar Towers attack at Bahrain. We got this Strait of Hormuz where Iran's trying to cause some problems. 22 million barrels of oil passes through this oil transit choke point every day. And then you got Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, and the Omanians smuggling in the Gulf of Oman. They smuggle, and that's how Iran smuggled. One way Iran smuggled weapons into Sana'a through Oman. So Iran is very big in smuggling, and it's so much so that the Omanian government taxes the Omanian smugglers. That's how much they smuggle. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, Hezbollah smuggles with the Omanians through Oman into Yemen, Sana'a, where Iran materially supported the Houthi rebels, and they couped the Sunni government of Hadi and sent them to Aden, the border on the border of the Gulf of Aden, right? So basically, Iran is off in the Gulf of Oman smuggling with the Omanians. Then you got Port Gwadar in Pakistan, where China is quietly building a military base, very big one. They're spending, if they haven't spent all the billions already, they're spending billions in the port of Gwadar, right off the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf of Oman. So China has a presence over there. So it's right over here, right? Here it is, right? So you got China, Iran, they're partners. You got the smuggling in Oman. As we move down from the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea into the Gulf of Aden, that's where the USS Cole, that picture I showed you with the hole in the ship, that was the hit on the USS Cole, and that was done in the Gulf of Aden. And over there, we're getting near Ethiopia, Djibouti, and in Djibouti, we have a U.S. military base, as we have a U.S. military base in Qatar. One of the largest military bases outside of America is in Qatar. We have a military base in Bahrain, and we have bases in Oman, right? China has also a military base right next to ours in Djibouti. As you go up the Gulf of Aden into the Red Sea, right? The Gulf of Aden into the Red Sea, right? Now over here you got South Sudan. So the Sudanese oil fields that China bought, China sends Chinese workers to take care of the oil. The oil is piped through from the Sudanese oil fields all the way to Port Sudan, and then the oil is sent out to the oil tankers that go along. So China sends Chinese workers to Sudan. China bought these oil fields. That was at one time Omar al-Bashir was the tyrannical dictator of that area. And he's got $9 billion UK banks. He got cooled recently, right? So now they got new gangsters taking over South Sudan, right? So the same game's going on, but different players, right? Probably. I don't know for a fact, but probably, right? So they're in South Sudan, China, with their oil fields, and they got their oil tankers, and that's why they have their military base in Djibouti, Ethiopia, as they go down the Red Sea, right? They go down the Red Sea, past the Gulf of Aden, past the Arabian Sea, shooting towards Malaysia, the Strait of Malacca, up to China. 80% of China's oil imports go through the Strait of Malacca. That's between Malaysia and the Sumatra Island, right? That thing narrows down, that water passageway, that oil transit choke point, the Strait of Malacca, narrows down to a 2-mile distance, beyond belief, between water and land on both sides, beyond belief, right? 80% of Chinese oil. Last time I checked, China is the #1 oil importer on the planet. So we got, oh yeah, and then in Egypt, we had under the Obama Clinton crime family, we had the Morsi ouster, Mohammed Morsi. If Morsi wasn't outed by Sisi and Israel, if they didn't out Morsi, I believe Iran would be attacking Israel by now. It would be a lot. Iran will be a lot more emboldened. A 5-year Morsi reign, Iran will be a lot more emboldened. So also there's a U.S. air base in Israel as well. In addition, right. So in addition, there's so we talked about the Houthi rebels' missiles. We talked about in addition, not only did the Hezbollah, Iran, Quds Force, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps terror cell whack Prime Minister of Lebanon, Rafiq Hariri, they also whacked former Prime Minister of Yemen, Ali Abdul Salah. Yeah. Yes. So this is to give you an idea of this North African, Middle Eastern region, Iran versus Saudi Arabia. Just to give you a little idea of what's going on. As the New York Times is claiming, we have a white Christian nationalist terrorist problem, comparing it to the global jihadi movement, the Iranian global terror network. And I'm showing you how deep this global jihadi movement rolls between Saudi and Iran. In addition, now I'm going to move a little bit because I mentioned yesterday, different parts of the world and American jihad, right? And now I got the Benghazi, the precursor to Benghazi was the Gaddafi ouster. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to blog these vectors. This is crazy stuff, right? So, as you know, the Obama Clinton crime family, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and NATO, France and England were involved in the ouster of Gaddafi. It was so bad. This is the jihadi movement. This is the global jihadi movement. And they're trying to compare they're trying to compare the white nationalist, the white Christian nationalist terrorist problem to the global jihadi movement. I mean, it's beyond belief. These New York Times editorial board is very dishonest. Very dishonest. I'm a white Christian. I'm a man of Christ. This is crazy. So just to get back to this Gaddafi ouster and then the Benghazi hit on the Benghazi mission, killed Americans there, right? Radicalism has killed Americans there. So basically, the Obama Clinton crime family got NATO together with England and France. That was Sarkozy from France and Cameron from England. Everybody benefited from the whacking of Gaddafi. So Gaddafi, they never would have beaten Gaddafi if NATO was not involved. It's my understanding NATO was heavily involved. They were bribing a Gaddafi General Yunus, which the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group whacked, Mustafa Jalal and Abdel Hakim Belhaj. Why am I not shocked? Muslim Brotherhood, right? So just to let you, right? So we had England coming in to this conflict, the ouster of Gaddafi. We had Libyan Britons and France's Sir Karzai coming into this conflict with Gaddafi. In addition, so NATO and the Obama Clinton crime family co-opted the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group to take out Gaddafi with Mustafa Jalal and Abdelkim Belhaj, the National Transitional Council. Claire Lopez, 35 years CIA operative. So the problem with this whole thing, well, first of all, the ousting of Gaddafi. Gaddafi was hoarding 20,000 Soviet manpads. And not only that, the United States, under the Obama Clinton crime family, gave through Qatar, special forces, special ops, gave this Libyan Islamic Fighting Group basically Al Qaeda foreign fighters that go all the way back to the Afghan Taliban versus the Soviet Union, with the likes of Bin Kumu, Abdelhakim Belhaj, Abu Yahya al-Libi, Abu Katala. These were well-known Al Qaeda foreign fighters. And the Obama Clinton crime family gave them 400 U.S. Stingers, FIM 92s, in this ouster of Gaddafi. That was the problem. So, in order to keep this under control, NATO had this general, this Gaddafi general, join the rebels with the hope that he would be able to control the military side of this thing, conceivably the manpads. Well, they whacked them. So the radical Islamists, Mustafa Jalal and Abdel Elkim Belhaj, took over. And they were gun running the 20,000 Soviet manpads that Gaddafi was hoarding in El Gia in Libya, South Libya. There were in addition Hezbollah, Quds Force, Iranian Military Guard Corps terror cells in South Libya. There were Iranian Hezbollah Quds Force terror cells in Misrata, which is right next to the capital of Lebanon, Libya, Tripoli. In addition, also in South Libya, so they had terror cells in and the manpads were in, a lot of them were in Algiers, which was South Libya. North Libya, right next to Tripoli, is Misrata. They had Hezbollah, IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force terror cells in Misrata. And then they had this town, Ajabaya, which is 90 degrees north from Ajabaya is Benghazi. According to Kenneth Tillman, that was a logistical supplies pipeline to Benghazi, where they had the Benghazi mission, and they were conceivably running these guns, these weapons to the Benghazi mission. They were trying to get a chokehold on these 20,000 Soviet manpads out in the streets of the North African Middle Eastern region with 400 FIM 92s from Benghazi. And the Benghazi mission, 45 degrees northeast, and they're in Derna. That's a pipeline, at the very least, for human assets, for Al Qaeda foreign fighters to enter into Benghazi and join this Ansar al-Sharia, because now we're talking about Benghazi, Ansar al-Sharia Sunni militia that was fronted by the Hezbollah, Quds Force, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps terror cell in Benghazi. So they had Ajabaya as a logistical technological pipeline. Derna was a human assets pipeline into Benghazi to facilitate this Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran Quds Force terror cell, Islamist stronghold, Iranian Islamist stronghold inside of Benghazi. That was unleashed on the Benghazi mission, where we lost an ambassador and Americans inside the Benghazi mission. And these same individuals were the individuals that and they just went from the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, right? Morsi was involved. Morsi sent Muslim Brotherhood operatives to be part of this Ansar al-Sharia group, which was materially supported by the Islamic Republic of Iran, Quds Force, Hezbollah terror cell, right? And this is confirmed by Kenneth Tillerman, claiming that the Mohammed Jodaki and Khalil Harab, the Quds Force, Hezbollah connection, was where the money was exchanged, the 8 to 10 million from the Quds Force bank accounts in Malaysia, the first Islamic investment bank, which was owned by, as part of the group of this Iranian billionaire that was selling upwards of 20, 23, 24 million barrels of oil in Port Labuan. So also involved in this thing, we had Libyan Britons, because the English politicians, they're the worst, right? They're just as bad as the politicians here, except our great president, Donald John Trump. The English politicians were, giving away the kitchen sink, and they were actually sending Libyan Britons to fight the ouster, to fight the ouster Gaddafi. NATO, many countries in NATO were involved in the ouster of Gaddafi. No-fly zone, trade embargo, naval blockade. And what resulted? You had NATO, which was basically England and France and the Obama-Clinton crime family. We had human trafficking. So the result of this whole hodgepodge, this whole mess in Libya, was a second civil war, was a human trafficking, right? And Iran, Hezbollah terror cells in South Libya. Yeah. And basically 20,000 plus 400 FIB-92s in the hands of the radical Islamists, running guns to Turkey, Beirut, and Syria. This is the Obama-Clinton crime family policies in Libya. A mess. An absolute mess. An absolute mess. With England and France. And other NATO countries were involved in the blockades. Saudi Arabia was involved. Qatar was involved. It's beyond belief what happened over here. And they armed Al-Qaeda foreign fighters that go all the way back to the Afghan Taliban versus the Soviet Union. What? 10 years. 10 years after September 11, 2001, the horrific hit on the World Trade Center. And we have a white Christian nationalist problem in this country. That's the New York Times reporting. Beyond belief. Beyond belief, right? I'm going to give you one more tidbit. I'll leave you with this. It's 48 minutes in. I want to get off the air. Let's do this chatting over here. I'm sorry, I'm not chatting with you. I'm going to give him a quick chat. Yo, Mel. So I just want to show you this other thing, a little tidbit. Al-Qaeda confirms death of bin Laden confidant, Abu Yahya al-Libi. Now here he is, right? This was reported by, I think it was Reuters. Reuters. This was reported by Reuters, right? This is odd, right? Reported by Reuters. Now, if you look at this is on the Reuters server, right? Tuesday, September 11, 2012, at 2:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? EDS, Eastern Standard, right? Eastern Daylight Time, right? EDT. 2:33 a.m. This was put on. Al-Qaeda confirms death of Abu Yahya al-Libi, confidant of Osama bin Laden confidant. He was whacked by a drone in 2011 in October. No, I'm sorry, June of 2012. So he's whacked by a drone in 2012, the summer of 12, June, right? Now, it says here September 11th, 2012, 2:33 a.m. This was on, I pulled this off the server. It said 2:33 a.m. This was the day of the Benghazi hit. Now, Libya is 7 hours ahead. So what's happening? Why are they blogging? Why is Reuters blogging this article? 2:33 a.m. September 12th, 2:33 a.m. Why? Because somebody from the Situation Room is watching the horrific hit on the Benghazi mission. And they're starting to begin how they're going to deal with it through the news cycle. This is the fake news game, right? Roll this into the news cycle. What up, Johnny? Roll this into the news cycle. And this way, the news cycle confirms what the Obama-Clinton crime family, Obama and Hillary Clinton, are going to purport on what went down in Benghazi. It was because of, the whacking, the drone strike on Abu Yahya al-Libi. And there it is. He was killed in June. How convenient. September 11th, 2012, Reuters is blogging, Al-Qaeda confirms death of bin Laden confidant Abu Yahya al-Libi. Beyond belief. So they're watching from the Situation Room. Who knows? Hillary Clinton, Barack Hussein Obama, stealth jihad radical Islamists, watching Americans getting killed in Libya, watching ambassadors getting whacked by these radical Islamists. And we have a white Christian nationalist problem. Beyond belief. Beyond belief. Reuters puts through on their server 2:33 a.m. So they're beginning to put the argument through the news cycle on what the Obama-Clinton crime family is going to present as the reasons why this terror attack happened in Benghazi. And one of them is for revenge on the drone strike of Abu Yahya al-Libi, which happened in June of 2012. How convenient. They orchestrate, they implement, they put their pieces together to stoke their narratives. The Obama-Clinton crime family. September 11, 2012 at 2:33 a.m. This was on Reuters server. 7 hours ahead is Libya. 7 hours ahead is the terror attack. So it's 9:30 a.m. in Libya. It's off the hook. Off the hook. So somebody, Hillary Clinton, Barack Hussein Obama, right? John Brennan, absolutely. John Brennan, James Comey, right? James Clapper are watching from the Situation Room, and now they're laying the narrative on what they're going to tell, how they're going to lie to the American people on what went down in Benghazi. Beyond belief. And I'm going to sit here and believe. Now, I'm not saying I know everything that went down in El Paso, Texas. I don't believe the manifesto. I don't know. It could have been planted for all I know. It's right off the U.S.-Mexican border. Hezbollah could have provided the weapons to these kids. I don't know. Right? They could have gave them, I don't know. Could have gave them money. I don't know, because they have money. They have weapons. They have training. They have explosives. Does Hezbollah on the U.S.-Mexican border. Right? So I don't believe what mainstream media and the mainstream intelligence is purporting about this El Paso, Texas shooting. Horrific, senseless killings. and the senseless killings in Dayton, Ohio, where they don't have a motive. In El Paso, Texas, apparently they have a manifesto. Is it the Quran? Is it the Quran? Right? Because they're trying to compare this to global jihadi movement, where there's an iman, there's a book, there's texts, verses quoted from the book that the imams use to radicalize their terrorist cell, right? Like Omar Abdel Rahman, the blind sheikh from Egypt, and born in New Mexico to two Yemen nationals, the 9/11 imam, or Anwar al-Awlaki, right? So, according to the New York Times, we have a according to the New York Times, we have a white Christian problem, a white Christian nationalist problem, according to the New York Times. I'm a white Christian. I am appalled. I am appalled. This is a disgrace, right? Not only am I very upset about the senseless killings, but also calling out and claiming that we have a white Christian nationalist problem, putting it at the feet of our great president, Donald John Trump, right? And then comparing it, we have a New York Times problem, absolutely, John, and then comparing it to the global jihadi problem, which I've shown you for the last 3 days how deep. I got vectors, I got maps, how deep this global jihadi movement, this radical Islamic movement, this Iranian global terror movement is, from Malaysia across two oceans, the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, to New York City, from the US-Mexican border, from South America, from Africa, from Europe, right? From the North African, Middle Eastern region, beyond belief, from Asia, all the way to the streets of New York City. And we have, the New York Times has the nerve, the reporting. I'm sorry for being so cynical. I just can't go along with this mainstream media fake news, this mainstream intelligence community fake reporting. It is you're right, John, it used to be. It is a disgrace to America, what they're purporting. We have a white Christian nationalist terrorist problem. I showed you the buildings that these radicalisms blew up in America. I didn't even bring in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing or the September 11th, the horrific hit on the Twin Towers. Beyond belief. And this mainstream media lies continually. Like they lied about the Russian fix, right? Comey on July 5th. Wow, Brett Gardner expects to play in 2020. That's great news. Wow. Brett Gardner is a tremendous athlete. Oh my God. That guy is, I need to get off the subject. He's the outfielder for the New York Yankees. His conditioning is incredible. I'd love to know what he does in the offseason. Incredible. 35 years old. He runs like he's 25. He's amazing, right? So to get back to this, right? So we got this, absolutely, Jonathan, fake news, right? Fake news. And on July 5th, 2016, James Comey was on national television telling everybody all the bad things Hillary Clinton did, right? All the bad things she did. And the next thing we thought what she's going to say is, and he's going to recommend to a grand jury to consider indictment of Hillary Clinton. Instead, what did he do? He rewrote the federal statute of the U.S. espionage statute. According to Andrew McCarthy, blind sheep prosecutor, James Comey rewrote the U.S. espionage statute and required elements that were not required, invoked elements that are not required by Congress for a felony violation of the U.S. espionage statute. So he invoked the element of intent. According to Andrew McCarthy, Blind Street prosecutor, he raised the standard. He raised the threshold for a felony violation of the U.S. espionage statute. So therefore, Hillary Clinton didn't reach that threshold, didn't reach that standard because of the element of intent, which is not required by Congress for a felony violation of the U.S. espionage statute. So according to Andrew McCarthy, Blind Street prosecutor, in in broad daylight, I got it right. It's late. Broad daylight, James Comey rewrites the U.S. espionage statute right in front of our eyes, invoking elements like the element of intent not required by Congress. Congress makes the laws. The FBI director, not only did he rewrite the U.S. espionage statute, but he pardoned Hillary Clinton. He was president. He rewrote the statute. He was a senator, and then he interpreted his new statute, his new U.S. espionage statute, by invoking an element of intent that's not required by Congress for a felony violation of the U.S. espionage statute. So, what else more do we know about a deep state? What else more do we know? We need to know, right? What else more do we need to know about a deep state and why we have to on November 3rd, 2020, get out there and make certain our great president, Donald John Trump, who's fighting for us all. When they call President Trump a racist, they're calling us racist, and we're not, right? When they call us white Christian nationalist terrorists, they're calling all us that because we believe in Donald Trump. We believe in the American Citizens First movement. And that includes all Americans, not just white Americans. President Trump is talking for all Americans, white Americans, non-white Americans, Latino, Asian, everybody. American citizens first. So because I believe in the Trump doctrine, I'm a racist, I'm a white Christian nationalist terrorist. And they lay this at the feet of our great president, Donald John Trump. This is why I find this so unconscionable. Not only did people senselessly lose their lives, the killings were senseless, horrific, they also claimed that President Trump, our great president, is a white Christian nationalist terrorist, and he's the reason why this is all happening. And I shouldn't be offended by the mainstream media and the mainstream intelligence community. Like they think that we're quite frankly, they think we're so stupid. They think we're really stupid, if you really want to think about it. They really must have a very, very small opinion of us. They must think that we're really dumb, right? When you really think about it, the logic and the reasoning, comparing the white Christian nationalist terrorist problem that they say we have, right? Putting it on the same level of the global jihadi movement. It's beyond belief. Absolutely, John. So I'm going to get out of here. I've been talking about this for 3 days, and I got vectors. I got more vectors. So we'll see what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I definitely want to get back to the Kelly Moore article and talk about the American jihadi movement, which I'm probably going to do tomorrow or Sunday or Monday. I'll decide tomorrow because we're going to keep going. What up, Frankie B? What's poppin', Mel? How you doing? Over there on YouTube. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm on here an hour. So, this is where we are. It drives me crazy. I love my country. God bless you all in YouTube and Facebook. God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Thank you for your sacrifices. Thank you for your service, providing me with the freedom and what I love to do, and that's broadcast. God bless the greatest country on the planet, America. God bless our great country, America. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and God bless our great president, Donald John Trump. We're working on it, Johnny boy. We'll see what happens. I'd love to get back on ABC. That would be amazing. You know, we'll see what happens. We got a few things in the hopper. With the grace of God Almighty, I would love to be back at ABC. All right, Dan, Johnny, God bless you all. I'll see you all tomorrow night. I'll be on the air, Eastern Standard Time. You better believe it. This is Frankie Russo. This is Frankie Russo, and I'll see you in the future. This is Frankie Russo, and I'll see you in the future. Frankie Russo coming at you straight out of Brooklyn.